Hi, everyone. My name is Tom Greco, and I'd like to welcome everybody today to Foundation's free webcast series. Today, we're going to be talking about utilizing Foundation software specific job costing features to get a better grip on job costing. I know we've categorized this as more towards a year-end process, but I also feel that it's pretty important not only just at year-end, but also obviously quarter end and obviously throughout the year of getting a better grip on where your jobs are at, job costing wise. So today, hopefully, we'll go through some specific features of Foundation's accounting software system, talk about how Foundation looks at job costing, and allow you to kind of compare potentially what you're currently doing in your current solution to maybe some of the features and benefits of utilizing Foundation software. Now, before we jump into the presentation, I just always like to mention that everybody's currently in a mute only mode. So you'll be able to hear me, but unfortunately I wouldn't be able to hear you. And if there are any questions, there should be an area within the GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar area where you can key those questions in. And towards the end of the presentation, I'll make sure I go through those questions with time permitting. So a little background about Foundation before we actually jump into the crux of today's presentation, which is job costing. Foundation is designed to replace your current accounting solution. And obviously, job costing is going to be one of the major efficiencies of utilizing a construction-specific accounting solution like Foundation software. We typically see a lot of companies or a lot of new customers with Foundation, going through a very struggle process of being able to track their jobs, both not only with maybe an off-the-shelf solution, many spreadsheets, kind of a lot of back and forth. So today's focus will be how we can better leverage Foundation's features to speed up that process and allow people to see job costing at a more of a real-time basis. It is also important with some of the year-end reports that we'll discuss today, but I do want to give kind of everybody an overall feel of how Foundation looks at job costing. So with Foundation, we refer to it as a one point of entry accounting solution. So we look to maximize job costing upon entering of information, so that we're not looking to take information from one place and have to manually put it to another. And there's a lot of back and forth that happens with those scenarios that A, causes room for error, and B, just doesn't provide you with the real-time look at where all your projects are at. And that's our goal, right? Let's make it more efficient. Let's allow people that are needing to see that information be able to come into our system and see that information quickly. So one of the big secrets of Foundation is that one point of entry system. Being able to capture labor properly coded, being able to capture invoices properly coded. Let's take AIAs, for example. Having your accounting solution now be the point of entry for AIAs, where we're not having to do a bunch of back and forth in Excel. We're able to use the system for what it's built for. On the job cost side especially, I'm going to kind of jump into some certain areas here that I typically see other companies struggle with. And some of them might be simple, some of them might be complicated, but with Foundation, we're able to handle all the above. Also, too, actually, before we jump into here, this is what I would consider is kind of a brief overview of the job cost side. We do have other modules. Obviously, we cover in-depth demonstrations here, so if we don't necessarily get to something here, if anybody's looking for an in-depth demonstration, you can reach out to us at any time. But with the job cost side, especially year end or even throughout the year, it's going to be important that our solution provides you with that real-time reporting. I should be able to come into Foundation, whether it be once a day, every other day, once a week, and have a good idea of where everything is job costing wise. And even from just this initial look at the dashboard here, every project that I have in the system, we also integrate with estimating solutions. So estimated cost is something that we can have reside in the system. And as we allocate costs to the project, that cost gets allocated into the system as well, so that we can turn around and see where each project is. Whether there's 1 job, 10 jobs, or 100 jobs, I should have a graphic view of percentage of completion on each project. I should also be able to drill into graphs too and get more of what I consider a 30,000-foot view or a high-level view of each project that lives in the system. Each job is appropriately set up in the system with budgets, retainage, contract amounts, and one indication of Foundation is going to be this word revised here, right? And what that's telling me is that change orders are entered into our system. So I kind of like to highlight specific areas that a lot of non-construction specific solutions struggle with, one of them being change orders. So instead of us managing our change orders in multiple places, whether it be an Excel file, on a Word document, on a napkin, we no longer want to have that be something that is untrackable. We want to provide you with a solution that you have an ability to enter those change orders in. And by doing so, I'm now able to see accurate, up-to-date contract amounts, as well as accurate, up-to-date budgets. I'm always able to see what's really going on in the system. So as I'm billing projects, they're being billed out of our accounting system. As I'm allocating cost, same thing, I'm able to allocate that cost within the system, so I can compare where I think the job's going to land profit-wise versus the true story, right? Where we're at today and whether we're performing well or not, we should be able to see that information. We're also very big on percentage of completion again. And most important, one of the major areas that we'll talk about today is over/under billing. Now, I look at over/under billing as two different ways to review it, right? There's what I consider your standard, some would classify or categorize it as a quote unquote accounting report, where if I need to make adjustments to the GL based on the underbillings or overbillings values, that is something we can do. But we also want to share that same information with maybe people that are outside of accounting, right? Your estimators, your project managers, your owners, where they may not need all the ultra detail of the true over/under billing, but we do also want them to be aware whether their jobs are underbilled or overbilled as well. And what that does is that eliminates the adage of, oh, I didn't know my job was underbilled, I didn't know it was overbilled. No, we're able to see the very similar things that we see in accounting. Maybe not as much detail for them, but they are allowed to see whether their jobs are underbilled or overbilled, so that now we're kind of on the same page throughout. System's very big on drill downs too. So as we go through the reports, we don't require you to stop, run a different report, stop, run a different report, or run a different spreadsheet. No, all of this should come from the solution itself. And I should be able to take a specific job, drill directly into it, and now dive into further or more information. So what we've kind of done here with the dashboard is we've taken these major areas, right, from the previous report, and now we've expanded out the ability to drill into that detail. So whether I'm looking at, wanting to see every billing that's gone out the door, the retainage by job, the job costing, the budget, the change orders, the purchase orders and subcontracts, I now have a central area that I can go into and see all this information. And if I need further answers, I'm able to just easily point and click and drill into them. So instead of pivoting and having to run a different report and then having to pivot again and run a different report, all we simply have to do is just point and click. So one of the major popular areas of the system is the cost analysis. And especially year end or even throughout a project, we might want to be able to come into our software with a couple clicks and be able to drill directly into that job cost. And this is where we can start to kind of dive into the details of the job, where each project, we're able to set them up with specific line items. We call them cost codes in the system. Through whether I use a third-party estimating solution, an Excel estimate, or I'm just entering estimates into the system, I'm able to put budget amounts towards each line item on the project. So that would represent this estimated cost value. And as I allocate cost, that actual cost is just coming from the accounting system. So there isn't a need for anybody to take information from one place and try to plug it into a spreadsheet. It just happens through the system real time. So I'm able to run some variance reports at any given point in time. And from here, I'm able to drill into any cost code and get that next layer underneath it. So kind of how we look at the job costing is by job initially, by cost code, which would be the second level, and then category, which is the third. So, we're able to see not only just earthwork, labor, we can separate labor from materials to equipment. So I also like to kind of touch on, for those that need to allocate equipment, if you're using an off-the-shelf system, let's say like a QuickBooks, it's nearly impossible. So I've already touched on two major areas, change orders and equipment, that just aren't in QuickBooks. So we want that system to be suited for strictly construction. So those are things that go into my software where I'm not really guessing at, or I'm not having to do them outside the system. And from here, I can then start to dig into the details even further. I can look at the estimated cost versus the actual. I can look at the estimated hours versus the actual. And if I want to see what's behind the curtain, I'm able to drill into any single one of those categories. So let's take labor, for example. I point and click on labor, and here's all the time cards from payroll. So this is where you start to see what I do in accounting also flows into job costing. This is where you see, us able to give you full transparency on every dollar of cost, every hour of labor. So there shouldn't be any questions by me just pointing and clicking. I'm able to dig into all those details. And I can do that with any type of cost. Equipment, for example, if I want to drill into equipment, I can see every piece of equipment that was utilized on that project, how much it cost the job, how many hours are into the job. So all that detail is going to come right back out of the system as long as I'm putting it in. Same thing with committed cost. For those that issue subcontracts, another big struggle is getting a good idea of not only just the estimated and actual, but what have we not been invoiced for on any purchase order or subcontract? Another common area that tends to be kind of a struggle within off-the-shelf systems. We're looking to be the opposite. We have our own purchase order subcontract module where we're able to enter in those POs and subs, be able to invoice against them, and then at any given point in time, I'm able to drill into a project, see every subcontract that's out there, see what's been invoiced today, retainage, and most important, what's still left out there, not only for the job as a whole, but each individual subcontract. These are typically month-end, year-end reports too, that people like to run, where they can get a good beat on where every single dollar of cost is, whether it be estimated, actual, or committed. Another year-end report that tends to take a lot of time for people is the over-under billing. So having a system capable of being able to produce that report, rather than once again, me having to spend potentially hours or days creating this work in progress or over-under billing report, when a system like Foundation Software, being only built for construction, this is just a standard report that comes directly out of the system. So it's a huge time saver for those that need year-end work in progress. It shouldn't be something that I do need to spend a lot of effort on. As long as I'm keeping up with the change orders in the system, billing my projects, allocating cost, all this information lives in the system, so I should be able to pull it right back out with this report. This report's nice because it takes all the information in, whether it be year to date, quarter to date, monthly. You're able to run this report for whatever time frame you want. With the system being very, date sensitive, you're able to then use whatever date ranges you want and have and be confident that it's going to pull the correct numbers into the report. If I need to, I can have this report also adjust the ledger. So it is something that is easily produced out of the system, as well as something that if I want to take it a step further, and it's an optional step, I can actually post this report and it will make the entry for me in my Geo. With the system like Foundation, payroll is going to be another kind of strong suit of the system. What a lot of people don't know about Foundation is that day one, 1984, this product was originally written for a contractor, right? So I always talk about kind of the lineage of the system and why it's a good selection for those that, are looking to improve on not only job costing, but labor allocation, burden allocation, certified payroll. These are all things that we've done for 30 plus years. And, when it comes down to union payroll, multi-union payroll, multi-state payroll, all one of the main reasons why the system was originally created. So I would consider it a very big strong suit. And why that's important is, we want a system that not only produces those nice drill downs, those nice budgets, those nice actual reports, but we want the information leading up to those reports to be also efficient. And those that struggle with payroll find that Foundation is an excellent solution to handle all those complex payroll. And I would say probably one of the other major year-end features that I show, or even reports just at a whim, is being able to dive into the system and actually see what our labor is really costing us. So if we're using an off-the-shelf system, when it comes down to labor hours, labor dollars. We might be able to accomplish that with a non-construction specific solution. But as we get into allocating those fringes to projects, being able to allocate comp, being able to have employees work within multiple workers' comp rates, all stuff that's doable in the system. So once again, I should be able to pull that information directly out. So I like this report a lot because I could run this for a calendar year, I could run it for a quarter, a month, and it's going to give me my loaded labor numbers. So when we allocate labor, let's say, for example, whether we're using one of Foundation's mobile solutions or just flat out entering time, not only will the time and hours go to the job, but also all the payroll related expenses like employer FICA, FUTA, SUTA, workers' comp, general liability, fringes, they all get allocated real time at the point of entering payroll. So there's no need for me to kind of guess at what my labor burden costs. We're able to accomplish that to the penny. So I can go into each job and see my loaded labor rate numbers. And maybe why this would be important is, well, if I'm estimating projects in here, and this first project, Lake County Trust, I'm looking at about $44.52 in payroll. And let's say maybe I estimated it would cost $45. Well, I'll probably be in good shape on that job. But if we look at the job underneath it, we see that that loaded labor number is higher than 45. If I've used that same number for this project, I need to be aware of it, because there's a good chance if I continue at this pace, then I might be over on labor. So I want to be able to accurately track that, not only just by project, but even company-wide, right? If I run this for a specific year, this bottom number here is going to tell me what my average or total loaded labor number to date is. And that's going to help me in future bids or in future estimates, be able to say, all right, well, this is my actual loaded labor number, assuming that this year is the same as next year. So it's going to give us a lot of information that we can use for further things that we want to do, like budgets. Also with Foundation, I've kind of touched on a lot of what I consider system provider reports, starting with the dashboard, being able to drill into that, being able to, drill into other reports within the system. But we don't want to limit ourselves just to hey, this is the only reports that Foundation has to offer. Where we're different than maybe some of the other selections that are in the same, I would call, categories us, meaning, construction specific solutions. A lot of them kind of don't allow their customers to create their own custom reports. Now, whether it be a financial report or a job cost report, we want to be we want to be a different company than some of those solutions that do force you to use like a crystal reporting or something that isn't typically user friendly for the standard customer. So Foundation, what we did is we created our own report designer that allows you just to click and drag fields that you want to create on your report. Let's say, for example, I want a year-end report that gives me all my projects, gives me my labor dollars to date, my total labor hours by job, maybe my remaining committed cost, revenue. So I have every area of job cost to pull from, quantities. I'm able to pull all this information into a specific customized report that is going to be laid out the way I want it to. And one of the nice things about even just the custom report designer is that you can do drill downs here as well. So I don't want you to think that just drill downs are limited to the dashboard. They're nice. It's a system provided tool. And for a lot of people, it gets the job done. But if I do need to create custom reports and I want those custom reports to also have drill downs, I can do so. I can also take a custom report and link it to another custom report. So if I have two reports that I want to kind of interconnect, very similar to the dashboard here, I can do so with custom reports throughout the software, where the goal is, let's sit down, let's teach you how to do this, and you'll be able to produce these reports at any given point in time, and you would not be required to recreate the report every time. Now, I saved kind of what I consider favorite report, or what I consider one of the more underrated reports of Foundation, for last, just because in my opinion, a lot of systems cover the actual cost, the estimated cost. but very few systems get down to actually what I consider project cash flow. So we're looking at, being able to be, year-end productive to see where each project is cash flow wise. It doesn't take me a ton of effort to get to it. So what's nice about the system is these are, once again, pre-built reports where I'm able to come in directly into Foundation. I do still get that billings to date, cost to date values, but now let's sit down and let's talk about whether jobs are actually negative or positive cash flow. And with incoming payments being recorded in Foundation, and obviously payroll coming out of Foundation as well as AP, I'm able to see each project and see whether or not that project is truly positive or negative cash flow. And once again, if I want to drill into any one of these fields, all I do is point and click, and it'll take me to the next section. So those are kind of the four major areas I wanted to go through today. Trying to show some examples of some reports that you can easily get out of Foundation that are typically reports that one may run at year end, as well as obviously throughout the year. I'm going to now open it up to questions. So if there are any questions within that GoToMeeting area, please feel free to type them in, and I'll go through all the questions. Our first question is, are there samples of cost codes that can be provided? Definitely. So depending on what type of contract you are, we've obviously been in this business for, close to, I consider 40 years. If you think about, 1984 being the inception, and throughout those years, we do our own implementations here. We don't leverage third parties to use our system, set up our system, or support our system. So one of the nice things about, going with Foundation is that we do all of our implementations in-house. And, throughout the years, we look at probably the standardized cost codes that a lot of people request are either the 16 division CSI list or the newer expanded one, both of which we have. Now we can use that as a starting point. We can provide that to you, and obviously Excel format, so it's a lot easier to clean up. And then if you want to remove certain cost codes that maybe just don't pertain to you, you can, or you can just give us the double thumbs up, and through the implementation, we would upload those cost codes for you. Our next question, will the system do year-end 1099s and W-2s? Oh yeah, definitely. Today's, webinar presentation is more geared towards like the job cost side of year-end. But obviously with the system being, full accounting suite, I should be able to come into here, do accounts payable entry, issue accounts payable checks, and then obviously year-end I could do my 1099s or my W-2s. We even go as far as to being able also to produce the 1094, 1095C. So if any of the ACA stuff, those forms will come out of the software as well. Does the system do certified payroll? Absolutely. With the system itself, you have obviously versions of electronic certified payroll that you should be able to produce directly out of the system, or if they're the paper copies that you require, from the electronic side, we have all the LCP trackers, the EMARs, all the state-specific ones. As the same with all the printable ones, we should be able to do this right out of here and have those reports be completely completed by the software, as opposed to, once again, doing these in Excel. Can the same reports be run on a cash basis and accrual basis? Well, typically out of the box, the reports are going to be accrual basis. All the balance sheet P&L, those are going to be all accrual basis. But with that same report designer that we do with job cost, we can potentially create a cash basis financial. Is it possible to create a report to show total AR versus AP on a job by due dates? Now we could do total AP, total AR by job through a custom job cost report. Those fields would be able to be pulled in there. Probably the struggle you're going to have is incorporating that due date. As an alternative, I could go into here and run a payables by job and still use an as of date, right? So all these reports are going to require an as of date, which I'm able to key into the system. So I can see that Lake County has 57 as of today, depending on the invoice date. And if I pop it into receivables, I can see that as well. Next question, how do you set up the GL/JC tie-up to run properly? That would be something that would probably be most covered by our support team. You know, for today's presentation, this is going to be kind of more geared for highlighting foundation for new foundation people or for people who are potentially interested in foundation. As far as, you know, what I would consider that being more of a support question, you're either going to, depending on, you know, if you're working with a trainer or if you're currently live in foundation, I would probably recommend you reach out to them, just because just answering that question alone could take a lot of time, and that's typically handled by them. On the job cost side, when a change order is added, will that amount automatically be in the total on the job cost when seen on the report? Depending on the date, right? So every change order itself will have a specific date. In foundation being a very date sensitive software, if I enter a change order in the system and it's dated for today, and I ran that report today, whether it is as of today or includes today's date, then most definitely that change order will be right on that report real time. Is the dashboard standard, or you have to create it? The dashboard standard. So this comes with every rollout of foundation. It's included with every sale of foundation. It's an excellent tool that we try to provide each one of our customers. We can kind of leverage this as more of a plug and play tool out of the box, ready to roll. And obviously we can adjust it with criteria. You could run this by project manager, by geographic area, by type of job. So there are some stuff that you could create to filter this report or this tool, but it is a standard piece of every rollout of foundation. For the different types of genies, they're used for various reasons. When you see the word data genie, automatically think custom reports, right? So being able to do custom reports or custom lists, and whether they be job cost reports, job detail, custom financials, I would say these are probably the three most popular. But don't get me wrong, I've worked with a lot of companies that need a custom vendor list with, let's say, for example, insurance certificate expiration dates. Instead of me having to sift through a bunch of vendors, I can quickly go into here, create a custom vendor list, and just pick the fields I want, right? So the whole goal with all the data genies is just picking the fields I want to either populate or do calculations on my reports, or if I'm simply just looking for an employee list or vendor list or a job list, I can customize that just through the drag and drop feature. The form genies is going to be where we create what I consider, you know, non-AIA related invoice designs, purchase order subcontract designs, depending on what modules you have. This is in essence, you know, going to be tied to the modules in the software. Or if I need to create a custom T&M invoice, a custom customer statement, custom job cost change order with my logo in it. It's a very user-friendly tool compared to, once again, you know, other systems where they leverage a lot of third-party tools to do this. Once again, we decided to program our own, where it's all just drag and drop, and it allows you to create your own forms with your logos on them, whatever verbiage you want, and then those be, you know, livable boilerplates in here, where then if I do need to issue a change order directly out of here, it's the way I want it to look. And we would walk you through customizing those forms once again through the initial implementation. And then the third is the Import Genie. So this is where we're able to leverage integrations with other third parties. When we initially looked at the estimate versus actual, talked a little bit about, okay, well, how can we get that estimated cost in? One of which is manual. The other is importing from a third-party estimating solution. And throughout the implementation, what we would do is we would sit down and create these bridges between maybe potentially your estimating solutions, or you're using a third-party purchase order system, third-party inventory software, want to import your bank rec from either your bank statement or your bank website. I want to import a ginormous schedule values, import change orders from third-party estimating. So what we're very known for is playing well with others. So we want to create those integrations with any of your software partners that you currently utilize, just to make it an easier experience than having to really manually key in a bunch of this stuff. Yes, the genies are included in all foundation accounts. You know, those are, I would say, the base system is comprised of these modules up top here. The executive dashboard, and then this entire tools area would be part of every rollout of foundation. So they are included with every system. And obviously anybody that wants a full demonstration, wants to dive into more specific areas, you can always feel free to reach out to us directly. You can reach out to me even. My name is Tom Greco again. My email address is tjg@foundationsoft.com. I've been more than happy to help anybody and everybody. Oh, we got another question. How do we link PDF to invoices? That's through our document imaging module. So when you enter an invoice into the system, as long as you have that module added in the system, you'll see this little button up top here. So this is where I can come into the software and as I'm entering an invoice, or maybe even before my entry, I'm able to go into it and then link an invoice, and that could come from, you know, me saving the invoice somewhere or saving it to a folder. I've also had some success leveraging this on two screens. So technically I could take it to my other screen, which you can't really see. But I can also use the image itself on my second screen to assist me in entering the invoice. So there's some benefits there. To add an invoice or to add it to the record, I either double click or drag and drop. And then once I close out, this little file folder indicator lets me know that there's an invoice attached to this record. And one of the nice upsides of that is, you know, when we start talking in this detailed job costing, all I need to do is attach this invoice one time. And just by doing that from just this entry here, if I am within a report, and I always kind of go back to these as kind of like my big picture reports, and I do want to drill into job cost, and I do want to drill into cost codes. And let's say, for example, materials here, I'm over budget, and maybe I don't know why. I should be able to drill all the way into materials. I should be able to take that invoice, drill into it again, and then drill into a copy of it. As long as I've uploaded it at the time of entering the payable invoice, that's all I have to do. So it really kind of streamlines that, where I don't have to attach PDFs in multiple places. If I attach it in AP once, I'm able to see that information. The document imaging module would be an additional module outside of the core system. And if it's something that you need any of us to provide you cost with, or if anybody needs just overall costs that are maybe looking at foundation, once again, you can feel free to reach out to myself, or, you know, always, you know, you can contact us through the website. Everybody will be receiving a recording of this. So anybody who's attended or registered, we do record all these so that, you know, once we're, you know, completed with this, you know, we'll do a little stuff on the back end, get that out to you guys, as well as this will also be on I believe this will also be on our YouTube page as well. All right, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. Hopefully, going through the system, give everybody a good picture of, some things that, we look at as important things at year end, especially on the job cost side. Being able to use the system to speed up that process with everyone is huge. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that don't really have a good grasp at not even year end, just throughout the year of where their jobs are at. We're looking to eliminate all that, all those bottlenecks and those processes. So hopefully, just kind of going through some of these reports here, give you an idea of how we job cost, how easy it is to get out of the system. And if there's more questions, you always feel free to reach out to us. Once again, my name is Tom Greco. My email address is tjg@foundationsoft.com. And we'd be more than happy to answer any questions or even set up some more in-depth presentations. Thank you again for attending today. Hope you guys all have a wonderful day.